They had a whole bunch of maybes, and you can't pay your bills on maybes. That's a lesson right there. But the bigger lesson was, oh my gosh, we've got a company that's not focused. Where are we going? Are we just building really cool stuff, or are we building a profitable business? And ultimately, I closed that business down, declared bankruptcy, and reinvented myself. And from that day on, I knew, if I'm not clear on vision, the destination we're going, and everyone else on board isn't enrolled in that, there's a tremendous risk of if we were a sports team, we were losing against ourselves. So that's the lesson. Like if you've got some partners, maybe it's a family member, and if you're not all on the same page, the sooner you get there, the more you're going to de-risk your company and also most likely start to become more and more successful, because focus is so essential to anything, especially business.
Yeah, but even if it's just you, how do you make sure that there's not a dichotomy going on in your own head where you need to make money, but you're just so interested in doing cool stuff, or
Exactly.
you're just overextending yourself in some wrong way, so you're at odds with yourself.
Absolutely. That's another good point. And, if you are that person, a mentor, a peer group, something like that, where you've got people that care about you, that can check you. Because I think entrepreneurs, we're all really scrappy, we're smart, we're intelligent, we want to make things happen, but sometimes we're really blind to what might be obvious for someone else.
So what are some other mistakes that you've made that were pretty significant?
Yeah. So there's another one that's burned into my brain. And I just mentioned peer groups. I'm in a peer group, big organization called Vistage. And I had another company. So after I closed that business, I was kind of an entrepreneur at a couple companies and took some of the success there and parlayed it into another company that did more or less outbound lead generation. For those of you in the sales world, I ran like a sales development rep company. And while we would do some inbound, most of our work was outbound. It was like trying to figure out our right message for our clients, bring that message to a target audience, and get that target audience to raise their hand and want to engage in conversation, which would hopefully lead to some sort of business opportunity. Well, I had built a ton of systems and processes, and we'd have some clients that were doing really, really well, and others that were really marginal. And side note, this is actually how Set Up to Win got generated. But the lesson learned is I am frustrated. I'm this entrepreneur, and maybe you're like me. I'm working at night all the time, weekends all the time. And you would hear me say things like, I'm the only one that can do this. I'm the only one that can solve this, stuff like that. So I'm in my peer group, and I can remember this vividly. They asked me to process my issue. And my issue was, why can't the team do this work? Why can't they follow the systems I made? Why can't they do what I can do? And well, the short answer is they're not a clone of me. And, we've got to surrender to team and strategy and kind of figure that out. But I was blind to that at that moment. So I'm up at the whiteboard and I'm writing like up the big things I want to process through and what I'm challenged with. And I say something to this whole group like, and I'm the only one that can do this. And a couple of them kind of chuckle, kind of like gently, friendly. And others look at me really seriously. And they're like, could you repeat that again? And I was like, I'm the only one. No one can help me. And I'm like ranting. I'm so frustrated. And very calmly, the chair who ran the peer group, still does, said, Karl, do you really believe you're the only one that can do this? And as soon as he said it, and I kind of said it back to myself, I realized that was kind of not true. And then he said, I really think you need to surrender to team and strategy. Like, you're never going to be bigger than you are. You're never going to have work-life balance until you surrender to team and strategy, until you get really intentional about what you want to do and empower the people around you with clarity and purpose and the tools to do their job, and let them do what you hired them to do. And it was kind of like this big punch in the gut. I was like, oh my gosh, right? But if you think about it, how many of us say that? We feel like we have to hero through this thing. We are the only ones. We have to put in the extra hours, or, here they are, they messed up again. And I guess my lesson learned is, what is my role a lot of times in the success of the company, the failure of the company, the challenges of the company? And if I'm not seeing that the teams that I run or the teams that I coach are solving problems, and it's up to one person, then typically there's something much deeper going on that we can fix. I mean, that's the good news, right? We can fix it. We can start to figure out how to team better, bring people together. But the big lesson learned was, I can't spend my life heroing through this. I can't spend my life thinking I'm the only one that can do this, because I'm just going to put myself in a really tough place more times than not. No life balance, mistakes. I'm going to get burned out. I'm not going to take care of myself physically, mentally. And it's a way to crash.
A lot of people think that, but they go back and forth. Like, they think, oh, I'm the only one that can do this. Then they're like, all right. And they try to get someone else to do it. And maybe they're not good at management or systems or procedures or setting up a scaffolding for that person to be able to do it effectively, because they're not them. And then they say, see, only I can do it. And then they go back and then cycle. How do you break out of that? Like, first, it sounds like the recognition of, I can't do everything, I'm never going to grow. But then the second part, how do you empower people so that they can do what you do, or at least pieces of it effectively?
Exactly. And this is so tricky. And I've been caught in this trap more times than I can count, probably. So, if you were a client and we were working together, the first thing, you nailed it. We've got to have a self-awareness that if we don't, what is our role? If we don't start to shift how we are in our own companies or our own teams, you don't have to be an entrepreneur. I mean, this could be you running your own team. There's plenty of managers out there have the same problem. First, you have to have some of that awareness, right? And then I think you have to determine, are you willing to change, and know that most change takes time, and you don't get it right first. And just because you have the idea, you birth this idea, doesn't mean it's going to go to fruition. You need to kind of create a change management plan, if you will. So once you kind of get your head straight, and a lot of times if I'm working with somebody, it's just talking through that. And then I like to kind of think, okay, who on the team can do this? And if they can't, why not? Kind of a gap analysis. Where do we want to go? What's our current state? What's the challenge? And a lot of times, I hate to say this, but it is the leader. The leader hasn't, maybe they're very visionary, or they jump really fast. They move faster than other people. So a lot of this is ourselves as leaders taking a minute and going, okay, how do I change? And how do I start to partner with my teammates and ask them how they would solve it? What type of time they would need? What type of resources? What are the check-in points? What don't you understand? But it gets back to just really learning about the situation and the team you have and getting into conversation. Again, those things that I'm saying are about building team, building your teaming muscle.